There you go.
All right. Hi, this is David Rice. This is a Hit Christian Substack. I have with me Tony Petrosino. He was at the state convention on May 4th, and he was able to witness some of the things that went down with Toegate and also with Ben Baker and Dan Stacy at the end of the convention when they called for a quorum. And in that call for the quorum, they realized they didn't have it. They used a parliamentary procedure, and they were forced to end the convention. And all the resolutions that they were trying to get put into the platform were unfortunately tabled, essentially, and weren't able to go in. So I wanted to have you on because you were there and you have an eyewitness account, and I really want people to understand and hear what happened from multiple points of view. And I think you have a really important point of view to share. So go ahead and let's talk about what you saw.
Okay, well, we're, okay, when it comes down to the convention, basically, based on the rules that were sent to our emails and all that the day before, the week before, I guess a couple of weeks before, was telling us to get signed up by 9 a.m. The doors are closed, and if you're not in, it's not going to, then you're not getting in. So, give us an opportunity to sign up and get certified the Friday before. So, which I did. I went down there. They were still having technical difficulties. They couldn't get computers up. They couldn't get everything set up when they said they were going to set up by 1 o'clock.
Mhm.
3 o'clock, they finally started getting things rolling. I registered 3 o'clock the day before, knowing because even the discipline that I do, I'm retired in the military, so I have a discipline. It's like, okay, you're not if you're there on time, you're 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right.
So okay, let me get certified the day before, so when I come in Saturday morning, it's not going to be an issue. I did that. Saturday morning, I was there at the doors by 6 a.m. So I was in there. I got my seat. I found out where Christian County was going. I sat my backpack on my seat and got it. So I was waiting to see if they needed any help or what have you. And so I was walking around, and some of the people that came in with their papers and their flyers or whatever they wanted to pass out, I think they were confused because they didn't know if they could put the papers on the chairs, if they could pass out the papers, and all that stuff. And so part of me was thinking, did they really have good instructions for the people? And if
Yeah.
they didn't, why?
Yeah.
If the leadership was going, why did they not have good instructions? And I'll bring this back around when it comes to trying with people trying to, you know, squeeze their way to the top and take the lead on stuff.
It does. You're not the only person that it brought that up. It does seem multiple people I've talked to that it just was a cluster. And
Yes,
all day long, no one seemed to know what they were doing. It was a complete mess. And there was just a sense of disorganization throughout the whole day.
correct. And there was, and at the time, unbeknownst to me, I didn't click on the whole event of the day. I was in a zone all day, just
Mm.
okay, just trying to do my thing, get my seat, all that stuff, make sure that I'm ready to go because this was my first convention.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn and all that stuff, so I was doing that. Um, One of the comments that Ben stated in his video was talking about
And
making sure
that's
everybody had the information needed.
which
So
video is that? Is that the one with Elijah Haar? Or
yes, and so I know for sure when I say there was confusion about passing out the information, one of them was the 27 amendments on one sheet of paper.
Mhm.
And they did put that on all the delegate seats. Now, Can't say if they did on the alternates. I do not know, but was near there. Be about a half hour after I got there. When he asked what he could do or how he can pass that out or how it can get out to the people, very confusing. He was told not to give it at the door. I know that for sure. Which to me, you would give more information out at the door as they're coming in.
Yeah.
I didn't get it, so he put it on the. I know for 100% he put on the delegate seats.
Okay.
How if he didn't put it on the alternate seats, I do not recall. My brain was all over. I was doing different things and still trying to figure out everything. So the attempt was there. So no matter what, we're trying to be truthful. The attempt was there, and if he and she or whoever was passing this out knew exactly what instructions to abide by, they would have done it.
So
So
no one had clear instructions on how they should have been passing out the resolutions to the delegates, all the are the alternates. They were trying to do it one way at the door, but then they were told not to do it at the door. And then they tried putting it on the seats, but then no one was really clear on whether the delegate or the alternates had that information. So not everybody who should have the information was given the information, you think?
that's well, some of the amendments, not that sheet itself.
Okay.
When I say I don't know if they give it to the alternates, what I do know is when the delegate did leave, then there was no information left at their chair
Mm-hmm.
for the alternate to have that information with them. So whether they, like I said, whether they gave it to the alternates, or not, I can't say, and I'm not going to try to beat around the bush and say I do.
Yeah.
When you look at the big picture, is what they were told they couldn't do to what they were trying to do to what was left on the delegates' chairs for the alternates. Did they have the information? I don't know. So I can't argue. I can't say one way or another, but I do know that, like I said, there was no true direction and
It
how to give out the information and what have you.
it's so it's like the leadership hadn't thought out all the possible conflicts that could occur during the day. Like, hey, here's a delegate. We're going to give this information to the delegate. Well, what if the delegate leaves early? Should we make sure the alternate knows? It doesn't seem like there was really anyone thinking at a higher level in leadership on these types of questions that are, well, obvious, should be obvious to everybody. And so,
And I'll speak to that later on when we get back to the interview part.
okay,
You know,
with
leadership should be doing.
sure,
That step from the get go. Obviously, there was rift between two candidate what forums, I guess, in a better, for lack of a better word, and I'm frustrated at that.
yeah,
We
there's
were to get a convention taken care of, not worry about this, this candidate and this candidate and the parties on both sides. Like, are we infighting here? What's going on? And that's the lack of leadership.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost like they're trying to get either Ashcroft or Eigel elected at the convention, and that's not what the convention was about. The convention last was more important than either Ashcroft or Eigel. So,
And to give Ashcroft credit, I watched his mannerisms when his name was called, because it was almost like an Ashcroft convention when his name was being called up. So I put that on his people,
yeah,
not him, because after years of in the military and being trained to observe stuff, I watched his mannerisms and I said, I give him credit. He said, "Stop! This ain't about me." That's the impression I got when he went up there. It's like, this ain't about me. Let's get this thing done right and all that stuff. So I give him credit on that. So do I give his people credit? No. And to say this, I am still not. I don't know who I'm voting for between him and Eigel.
yeah,
I've been neutral from the get go. I'm still trying to learn both of them. I'm trying to learn everything about them, to make my wise decision when it comes time to vote. So, and I don't know Sophia either.
Yeah.
I do know that there was, we to put her in to let her run the convention because they said she would run it fair. And to her credit, she did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And so,
And I've heard that from several people that she did run fair. And Sophia is Bill Eigel's, she's on his campaign.
sure, something like that.
Something. She's relatively young. She's 26, I believe. And so I think there's a lot of um dismissal of her because of her age, and also because she doesn't support the right candidate. I think there was some infighting during the day over that. And again, I agree with you. I think the point of the day was the convention and the platform, and not either Ashcroft or Eigel. And I've seen Eigel, or sorry, not Eigel, but Ashcroft at meetings, local meetings, and his mannerisms are like what you say. He's a quiet person and he's trying to do things, but the people around him, they're not like that. And so,
right. And then that disappoints me. Where I say that is, what disappoints me is when we are there for a job, quit trying to push the candidate across the line. We're not there yet. We're here for the convention, the state convention.
mhm.
And so that's what I disappointment the week before, when I knew, which is the first time I knew what something was going on, because there's infighting, be the committee chair for this person or that person and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is going to be a fun day Saturday. All right.
Yeah.
So
That's
I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. Now getting that to the 9 o'clock hour, when we should have had the door shut and all the delegates, at least in the building, I was still in that zone. I was like, okay, when Nick came up and said, okay, we haven't certified everybody.
Nick Meyers,
Nick Meyers, yes. And so, okay, fine, we'll give it more time. When it became an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4.5 hours.
and then all of a sudden the St. Louis delegates finally show up. Yeah.
True, but even on that, to me, lost leadership is 2 hours into it. If this gentleman was a leader, and this is the fact, or he took 4.5 hours to get it certified. That's the fact.
Yeah.
My opinion is that was lack of leadership.
Mhm.
And in my training in the military, is like, you got to make a decision. All right, you got to make a decision, make things happen.
Yeah.
And he should have made that decision by 10 o'clock. If he wanted true leadership, if he was, and he's been a convention chair before or whatever, then that's either telling me two things: he is not a leader, or he was trying to
Stall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and leaning towards second one, both of them out. Either case, he did not present himself to be a leader, and he should not have been committee chair. Period.
Yeah, and I think God will have to judge his heart on whether he was stalling or whether he was a poor leader. But you're right. Either case, he demonstrated a complete failure. He's demonstrated a complete failure since I think he's taken the position he's had. He has not done what he should have been doing all along. He's not led as a conservative. He has been he's been backing establishment policies and behaviors, and rather than conservative values. So
Well, and if that's the case, then he's not, I guess, what you call grassroots, according to this interview I just got done listening to, and that's what gets me fired up. The interview got me fired up. Not that I can remember it all now,
sure.
because I didn't get a chance to keep watching it throughout the week. It goes back to that saying. So basically, like I said, as a leader, if I'm an hour behind, I have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Decision, because I'll go back to that interview. We were called hypocrites because we did not want paper ballots or secret ballots or stand-up voting.
Yeah.
That was based on the time only, not because we didn't want those things. A leader would have stopped it at 10 o'clock and say, okay, forget the computers, forget them looking at the papers, get out there on the floor, and we will put a either stand-up vote for each county, or we do put a secret ballot in for each county.
Yeah.
I feel that would take an hour. That would take less time than it took the 4.5 hours to certify the chair or certify the delegates. It would have been over by 10:30. Then we would have voted in the permanent chair,
Mm-hmm.
which I think obviously was no brainer, whether it was Nick Meyers or I don't even know the other gentleman's name from whatever county he was from.
Oh,
Voted Sophia in,
I I have it on a list of, and I think it's like Eli something, but I have a list and I don't remember either. I've had a lot happen this week too to kind of wash all that out of my mind. So
I got it. 40. I work over 40 hours a week, so it's like, and I got to come home and turn my cap on the political stuff.
yeah, no,
But anyway, so now that comes down to this: we voted for Sophia. That was done. What also showed me, because unfortunately our county was split.
hmm
From the week before, which still frustrated me because we didn't know this until the last week before the convention, what was going on. Like, where was the transparency on that? All the counties, through our own county, what was going on? People were holding it to themselves,
yeah,
which if you, and I'm going to use that interview with on the radio show. That's a democratic view. You hold everything to yourself. You don't share nothing with nobody
hmm
and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, you be transparent. You get the word out, figure it out. We should have got together and met, figure out what's going on and why. But half the group over here was keeping their secret, trying to influence one way, the other one was influenced another way. And that's why I stay neutral, because I don't know the ins and outs.
yeah,
But what I do know, and it took 4.5 hours. That to me was incompetency. Go ahead and say trying to, hold out.
it was
And then we talk about the hard thing, so then I'll throw the incompetency there.
yeah.
At that time, I think it swayed some of the people that were going to vote for him back to Sophia's side.
Yeah, well,
It should have, because it shows his incompetency.
yeah, Sophia did a great job running the rest of the day from what I've heard. She managed really well. She hired a parliamentarian, came in and he helped her. She cost her $2,000 out of her own pocket, from what I heard. And it requires a parliamentarian to really understand the Roberts Rules of Order. And it's a complicated thing. I don't know the Robert Rules of Order, but and back, I'm only starting to learn the process, but because grassroots people don't know the process really well, you get people like Ben Baker and Dan Stacy who know the process really well and pull what they did at the end of the day.
And I don't know the Robert's rules too, and I know there's a lot of good stuff in it. Maybe I still got to read it.
Mm-hmm.
You know that the convention, the delegates, the districts, any that are put together, those trump the Robert rules. So as far as I'm concerned, you take whatever you want from the Robert's rules and embed it into our bylaws and not keep calling out the Robert's rules, because I got tired of hearing that word,
Yeah.
To say it ain't bad, but let's put it in our bylaws. If it's so good, let's put it in our bylaws. Let's put it in our rules so we can follow it. Then we'll have a chance to read it and understand what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can have our own rules at the convention. We don't have to follow Robert rules slavishly. We can be a little creative and bring in some of our own thinking. The grassroots can come in and say, hey, we don't want to do this again. Aren't going to allow someone to take all of our efforts and all of our work away from us at the last minute and steal it from us. So there are ways to prevent things like this in the future.
That goes back to, I'm going to keep probably using this whole interviews. Why were you holding it back? Weren't these rules set up before, so everybody knew what to expect? You gave us emails. You told us to go ahead and follow these rules. You get there and we're closing the doors at 9 o'clock, but then you didn't follow your own rules. So that goes to that. Yeah, I think a lot of people are confused, and to have a statement saying that they let the autistic people run, come in there and push the rules.
Yeah.
That really fires me up when someone says that. It's like,
It's insulting.
it's insulting, and don't, I need to learn a lot, but don't insult my intelligence.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, if we were all autistic, we would know the rules inside and out.
Hey, more, yeah, we could, because we probably had that book ingrained in our head or whatever.
We would know it
Right.
better than Ben Baker and Dad Stacy if we were autistic. And I worked as a special ed teacher, and for him to use that as an insult, I find that degrading. I think that shows what kind of character he has. It shows how little he thinks of a person who has a real disability, and then he uses that disability to slur everyone who was at the convention, who doesn't spend all their time entrenched in this kind of parliamentary warfare, you know, and that parliamentary warfare speaks more to that backhandedness, that sleaziness, that politician lifestyle that most of us are trying to avoid. And he thinks that's a good thing to behave like that.
Yeah, and it's sad, but so going back to this again by 12:30 or whatever it was to 1:30, I guess.
Mhm.
Through Sophia, she took the gavel. She not only her own libertarian, she also kept one of them too, which is that's another kudos for her side. To me, whether someone was thinking they were pushing her side, either side in or not, she took the leadership role on that and even kept the second one to have backup
Yeah.
for this thing. And that, to me, I commend her for that. And being 26, and it was her first convention that I was accused of, was this your first convention? Yeah, it is my first convention, but it ain't my first rodeo.
Yeah.
I've been in leadership. I have 30 plus years of that. And so I know what kind of decisions I need to make to get the thing rolling, to get the ball rolling on it.
It's like it's your first convention, so you can't be smart enough to realize how badly it was ran. It's like I can, just because it's my first convention, I can see how badly this was ran. I didn't even go to the convention. I can see how badly it was ran. So
So, so in the 4.5 hours that it took not to certify the delegates, I realized based on the real time that she got the gavel again after lunch, because to me, it really started after lunch. They shut down. We got the quorum shut down on us with the same hours, 4.5 hours, maybe 5, to get all the people elected and then get into our minutes.
Okay.
By 10 or 10:30, if she had that gavel, we would have been out of there by 2:30, 3 o'clock. Simple, plain and simple. There's no hands down on it.
Yeah.
So my deep on that is because I know he said in his own interview that Ben he does not want the betting part. His county does not want the betting part. I realized that when we stood up and voted on these amendments, I turned back and looked and found out what county kept students standing up against our amendments.
Yeah.
New County.
Yeah.
And I clicked on me later on. That's the same county that was voting against our amendments in the 7th district convention.
Yeah.
So, not in the 7th in Newton County. And what are they being sold bill of goods as by Nick and or Ben himself?
Yeah. I can't imagine why the voters wouldn't want it. It's not really about what Ben wants, Ben Baker or Dan Stacy. It's about what the voters want and what the voters need to expect of the representatives. The vetting issue is so important to be able to know that if you file with the central committee and you pay your filing fees and you get that R next to your name on the ballot, that you will go to Jeff City and you will vote as a Republican and you'll follow the platform. And or as what we're seeing most of the time, they go to Jeff City and they just vote unconstitutionally and they don't care about the platform and they vote any way they can that will increase the lobbies, but kickbacks to the lobby or whatever they want, and they vote on issues that make them look conservative but aren't really conservative issues at all. And so the voters want to be able to say, well, you went to Jeff City and you didn't vote like a Republican, so we're not going to let you continue to have the R next to your name anymore. Voters should be able to have that right. And for him to be able to say, hey, no, I should be able to always be a Republican no matter what the voters want, is such an arrogant, elitist, pompous thing to say.
But that's what happens when you get in and you've been in a while. I feel you switch.
Yeah.
Like switch off. And I'm like, you forgot where you came from. That's how I see it. Exactly what it is. You've forgotten where you came from and who put you in.
Mm-hmm.
When it goes back to the lobbyist thing, for years I was thinking, well, I like the lobbyists because I want the Second Amendment people who lobbyists. I want, this lobby. I want those people to end the fight for us as well. In reality, there's a lot of stuff going back and forth to each other instead of back to the constituents and the people that vote you in. So, me, I guess I understand now why we don't want lobbyists, even though it is for our side.
Yeah, it's there's just too much poison with that pill. So even if you put a little bit of medicine in it, there's just too much poison with the pill. You really can't control, because you take a group like the Americans for Prosperity and they go around and they try to do what are conservative issues, but the things that they're trying to get in always increase the size of government. They always increase the size of spending and they force unconstitutional bills through. And then they give money to like the governor's PAC, and then the governor will reward our reps with money, and by doing that, they get to say, I voted conservatively. And yet that lobby just, they say they're a conservative lobby, but they're not at all. They're a big state, big government lobby.
And it sounds like they're doing it. They're getting paid behind the scenes or something, what have you.
They are. Well, yeah, our reps are getting paid behind the scenes.
Like I said, my view on it, when it comes down to, because I got that very first seat down that aisle where the mic is, and I was like, from here to you on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I talked to him a little bit, but I didn't understand who he was, where he came from. So discussing the rule and the law. And one area he did get me on, but that goes back to what I said about them trying to pass out the flyers. I don't know if you heard. And in that interview, he discussed one of the amendments came up about dust, whatever it is, spraying the dust over the food or whatever.
Yeah.
Remember that now that was 100% not passed out. No one got that. And no one voted for that. Everybody voted that down. So for him to use that argument that that interview was a sorry excuse because that was not passed out.
That was a red herring. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's where the frustrating part. That we're called autistic or we're hypocrites for not wanting to pass the, the paper ballots or the voting secret ballots or the stand-up voting. That's absurd. If we had plenty of time to do it, then we would have did it. I would have voted yes. Let's do it. Let's get this right.
Mm.
I'm the kind of person that we all this AI junk coming around in our country now, and this electronic stuff operating everything.
Yeah.
Always thought, well, what happens if this happens? Are we still squared away where we have to go manually shut that at the water district, or we have to go manually do something with electronics? Do we still have the back that stuff in play if something happens to the computer shutting down or electricity going out? That's where I've always been. We need to be ready for that to happen. So it comes down, yeah, I would vote for the ballots, and let's stand up, or let's fill out little, secret ballots and vote this way, and let's see what happens.
Chris Ann Hall, when she came and she spoke, were you at that?
Yes, I was.
She talked about how ballots voting has always been messed with since the very beginning. But if we put voting in the hands of completely in the hands of electronics, we are giving away our electoral rights. Because if they're hand counted, you'll have evidence that they've been messed with. But
Right.
once they're electronic, you can hide. Google is getting really good at hiding data and evidence like it never even happened. And so they are. I don't know if you watched the Michael Knowles interview. It's a really good interview with Michael Knowles, and he's talking with the expert who tracks what Google's doing, but they call it ephemeral data. And so they will push people to register to vote who are Democrat, but not push people who are Republican to register to vote. And so they're doing all these things, but then the data for them to do that just disappears. So there are people who are doing that with electronic data, and there's no reason to believe that they can't do that with the electronic data when we're voting. And so they could make the data disappear after the election as if it never existed in the first place. And so,
And that's something that I'm assuming the super IT guy or whatever would have to be able to go in there and try to find that stuff. But my point is this: he called us a hypocrite because we didn't at the time we had to vote to finally get something certified, and that's absurd. And like I said, I would have voted easily if we had a 10:30 start time
yeah,
to get this. We had to certify it that way at that time. At least it still would have been done within an hour.
yeah,
Been ready to go about 11:30
yeah,
instead of 2 hours or 2.5 hours later.
yeah.
So the argument is, I would destroy that argument all day long with them guys. So
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, someone just rang my doorbell, which is I'm going to ignore. So, there's a lot of people coming by wanting to do lawn care right now. I'm like, go away. So, but my dog's now barking. But in this situation, what we have with him, um, with the tailgate situation, is there anything you want to talk about in that situation that you saw?
I heard.
You heard?
I stood right there. I was right there with all that happening.
Yeah.
I didn't get no text. I didn't hear. But again, when I say I was vague, I was still in the zone trying to figure out what was going on. And to be honest, I don't remember if they were calling to move the cars before or after the quorum.
Yeah.
I cannot lie. If it was before, then okay. But they're fixed in on that or not. I don't know. But to me, if you're going to be a delegate or an alternate, you're there for the long haul.
Yeah.
Don't volunteer for it. Stay home and if you're going to do it, I brought a backpack full of food and water to sit there all day.
Yeah.
I'll be here till midnight. Based on what I knew, I said to myself and some people, I said, well, this is going to be an interesting day today.
Yeah.
And it was. So I was like, prepared to go the long gamut. So everybody else should too. Don't come in and say, well, I'll be a delegate. but then I'm tired by 2 o'clock and I want to go home. No, stay home from the first place. Get someone that's going to say, okay, I'm going to stay here until the gavel shuts down and the convention's over. That's what a true leader and a person that wants to do this needs to be like.
Yeah.
Not wishy-washy stuff.
Yeah, if more people had remained, and whether the towing happened or not, and yeah, it did happen, but outside of that, if people had just stayed in their seats through the whole thing, they wouldn't have lost. Oh, I just lost you for a second. You still on phone? Okay, so we'll keep going until you come back in. And but if more people had stayed in their seats, then they wouldn't have lost quorum, and without losing quorum, they would have been able to stay and keep the platform and get all the resolutions that they had passed into the platform. And then Dan Stacy wouldn't have been able to make the call to ask for quorum. So
that's what it is. So as far, but again, if we had everything set up properly, we would have been out of there before 7:30. But we had to play till 8 o'clock.
mhm.
Even if we should have stayed in our seats till 8 o'clock or whatever. But we were almost done. I think we were down to that last amendment anyway, which we voted down. I don't know if there was one or two more. Then we would have went ahead and voted.
Yeah.
So let's go back to that platform again on that. Based on that interview, they said that we were trying to push these amendments through without no discussion and no reading on it. And I'm saying that's not true, because we brought that to the 7th district and we voted on it.
Mm-hmm.
We went on to say that the smart 10 people on the committee to go over that, to add it to the platform for the convention, more than us, and they didn't put it into the platform, the vetting or anything else. Now, I will honestly say I haven't read the active platform that they presented for us to read, to come to the convention with.
Mm-hmm.
His statement said we wanted to push all these amendments through as a one-time block, and he put us down for it. But then at the same time, they wanted us to vote for that platform that they presented all in one shot.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
What's the difference? If you think we were trying to discuss our amendments in the 7th district and in the state convention.
Yeah.
So that, sorry, real quick.
Sorry.
5 districts out of the 8 voted for those amendments.
Yeah.
I think they did their homework as far as in my opinion.
Yeah, well, even at the caucus here, when we had our caucus, we discussed all the amendments, and it was a hard fought day. It took a long time to get through those resolutions and make sure that they were ready to go on to the 7th district. A lot of people were not happy here, even in Christian County.
But even one of the amendments, I was going to make an amendment to the amendment, and because they wanted, one of the things was talking about keeping government, the federal government, out of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But in that amendment, it says the churches or businesses could tell me I need to have the vaccine or masked up to go into business.
Yeah.
They voted it in our caucus, and we brought it to the 7th district.
Mm-hmm.
The person who did that, I said, I'm voting against that. I'm going to make an amendment. There's only one person that's going to tell me I'm going to get vaccinated or put my mask on. I don't care if I'm going to someone's church or business. That's me.
Yeah.
So even the state and the federal and the businesses and the churches are out of that too. They're not going to tell me one way or another.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with that. There's a certain libertarian bent within the Republican Party where we want businesses and churches to be able to make their own decisions about who enters their business. But what goes into your body, that's a personal decision. And that's not a business's, that is not for business or a church to decide what goes into your body.
and to me, they're acting like the authoritarian as the federal government, the state government, and all that stuff. So you keep all of that out of the business, and I would decide what I'm going to do, even if I decide I want to come and visit your church.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me that. So, but anyway, go back to the caucus. Yeah, it was a hard fought battle to get those pushed in.
Mhm.
It was a hard battle to get it to the 7th District Convention, then the state. So there was discussion on it. To me, importantly, you know, some of the libertarians way of thinking
Yeah.
needs to be washed out. I'm a true conservative Republican, which is the Lincoln Party, which is based on biblical citizenship and God.
Yeah.
If we are not pushing that in, and even if there's conservatives and libertarians or whoever that are conservative in nature, that's the platform they need to follow because God created and established this country that way.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to back up. We don't need to water down the platform. We don't need to water down anything else.
No.
And that goes into the caucus. You heard the one individual that wanted to dumb down the MRA and the caucus and try, or not dumb down, but be lenient on who we bring in. We've been lenient for years, and that's why our party is in trouble because we let rhinos in, this person in, and all that. No, this is our platform. You follow it, or you go find another party to get involved in.
As,
And that's it.
yeah, it's exactly that. And I think we need to, I've been thinking about this problem for a while, but I think as the progressives have pulled the Democrats further and further to the left, that action has allowed the establishment and the Republican Party to think, hey, we can fill this new space where the moderate Democrats used to be, and we can take over this ground and we can live here. And so they're trying to pull the Republicans over into this space that used to be where the moderate Democrats were. And I think we'll grab all these new voters and we'll have a big, wide Republican Party that extends from what used to be moderate Democrat, like Bill Clinton's, all the way over to like Reagan Democrats. But the problem is, uh, we're not going to get along with moderate Democrats on our values. Our values are wholly different from a moderate Democrat's views, like on abortion or on the size of government or on issues of liberty. Those values are distinctly different.
I think, I guess, in a sense, in my opinion, now that we think about it, there are people that probably, if the Democrats weren't so left and liberal, some of the people in the Republican establishment would be center leaning left Democrats in their philosophy. And that's why I say there's no dumbing down or no watering down your Republican platform.
Yeah.
I think you have kept God in it. The God has established this country, and that's how we need to keep it that way. And if you don't learn that way, then go create your own party. And what have you. The Democrats have already taken God out of their platform since in 2008.
They did, yeah.
And so that, and it shows by their actions.
It really does. Yeah.
That's why I said I'm like, no more watering down. We can't even get nothing passed. We got a super majority in Missouri. We can't get nothing passed.
Yeah.
See if the IP gets passed today.
It failed. It failed. Yeah.
But we ain't got nothing in, no IP reform. So let's see what happens when it comes to the August with this initiative with this abortion garbage.
Yeah, people are crossing their fingers, hoping that Parsons will move the ballot initiative, the abortion ballot up to August. But I don't trust Parsons to do the right thing on anything. And so
You tell them to get back in session until we get something done.
that's what he should do. He should demand that they're in session until it's solved. Yeah.
August 6th. Whatever.
Yeah. I think we need a counter with like the names of the Republicans who failed on this. And if abortion is legalized, there's a counter with their name on next to it, and every baby that's aborted, it starts ticking up. And so we keep that counter next to their name until they're kicked out of office. They don't deserve.
We'll be on their hands on, and when it comes to that, because
Yeah.
that will be on their hands. So
They don't deserve to be in office anymore.
no, when it comes down to it, that whole situation.
Yeah.
On this Saturday, that it could have been avoided, and if we would have had our hearts and minds focused on the task at hand, and that was to make sure we voted for committee women amendment and getting these amendments through, which was debated all the way through all the caucuses. Someone to say that we wanted to ram it all through. We have discussed it.
Mhm.
We don't want a person in it. We want a Republicans that says this is the platform I'm going to live by. If not, get out of the party. That's how I see it.
I agree with you. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss about Saturday? That's May 4th, or Elijah Haar's interview with Ben Baker?
I think I stated all because all the facts and what he said and disputed them. I might have missed some.
No.
I did chance to go back and reread rewatch the interview or what.
I
That night or that weekend.
Well, I think it was a great interview. I really appreciate you coming on. If you can wait a few minutes after I end the interview, I'd like to talk to you. But I I I ended. I'm working on my ending. It's still a work of progress, but I just ended with a y'all have a good day and just a good you too. And